Hey, welcome to Madhouse Magazine Radio Hour, and today we have another special show. And Mike, you were not here for that when I mentioned that every week I say it's a special show, but it never really is a special show. It's always the same stupid show that I always do.
It's always a special show, Dennis.
So yeah, that's another way to look at it.
Everyone has their own flavor.
Yeah, so we're going to do a nice, relaxed show today. We're going to do a professional show that we don't have Macchioli. If you see, we have Mike Padrone with us today, but we do not have Mike Macchioli. As you know, that was the trio, and we were ready to do the show. We actually set the show. We changed it to Monday for Macchioli so he could be here because he had a prior commitment on Tuesday and Wednesday when we normally record the show. And then there we are sitting there at recording time, and he texts, and he doesn't even have the decency to text. I have to text him and say, "Where are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm stuck on a train. And then we have to dig deeper, of course, because he normally has one text per hour or 24 hours. One text, 24 hours. That's his usual MO. But he texts right back, and it turns out that he went into the city for his methadone, as he normally does on Monday, but he was expecting to come back, but he had explosive diarrhea on the train.
Wasn't it the Glory Hole Festival?
Yes.
Was that what it was?
That he got stuck in a glory hole in Penn Station, right? So in New York City, he got stuck in a glory hole, and he couldn't get out. So the fire department had to come and get him out.
It was a mess.
And then he's on the train. He has explosive diarrhea on the train. It is a mess all over.
Transit had him clean it up. It's just...
Bill de Blasio was on the other side of the glory hole. It was...
we could do a whole show about what actually happened to Mike.
Yes, but let me tell you the topic. Besides Macchioli, the topic is Alice Cooper, and we're specifically spotlighting Welcome to My Nightmare.
Yeah.
Yes. So...
great album.
Before we get into Alice Cooper, of course, and we'll go back and we'll make fun of Mike periodically as we see fit. But what I want to talk about, the antithesis, the opposite of Alice Cooper, who is cool and awesome. Let's talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
So we have the opposite of Alice Cooper, which is Bon Jovi. And I'm going on record right now. I don't care who cares. I'm recording in New Jersey. And I'm going to go on record saying, I effing hate Bon Jovi. How this son of a bitch got into the Hall of Fame, I'll never know. When people like Jethro Tull are sitting outside looking in the window, and there he is. The New York Dolls are sitting out looking in the window. I can name 27 different bands.
Is Kiss in there yet?
I don't even know.
I don't think they are. I think they're still waiting.
Yeah, so now, we've gotten through all the premier acts. They go in right away. And now we're at the second level, maybe third level. And, they putting in, Moody Blues. I guess I kind of like Moody Blues.
Oh, yeah.
But and Dire Straits are in there. I love the Cars, so I can't say anything bad about them. But I hate Bon Jovi. And then, of course, Howard Stern, who I love, was out there being a big phony and inducting them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when you know damn well he does not like their music. He had this big feud with them, and he was making fun of them, calling all these stupid names, Bon Homo, Bon Phony.
Or like Sebastian Bach on his audiobook, Bon Blow Me.
Yes, say nobody likes this.
No.
And I already took a poll, and you know how painful that could be, right? But no guys like Bon Jovi's music. That all 12-year-old girls back in the 80s love Bon Jovi's music. They grew up. They still buy Bon Jovi's music. He sold countless numbers of records, millions and millions of records. But I don't believe that should quantify. That should be the qualification for getting you into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a prerequisite to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is you got to sell X amount of albums.
Oh, there is?
You have to do a number of charity work.
Really?
Exactly. AKA Soul Kitchen in Red Bank and all the other charitable things.
What kind of crap is that? It's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
There's a list of things that you need to do as a band to get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's not just being a cool kick-ass band like it should be. You got to actually go by these. All
right, so then
the protocol.
Like I said, that is a fraudulent Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that I am now. I've already started this, but the Madhouse Magazine Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the one that matters. and Bon Jovi is not being inducted into that.
I don't think he ever will be inducted into that.
No, he is never being inducted into that.
So whatever you do, you can't be inducted.
So Stern is up there, saying, "Oh, it's the greatest band in the world. I love them."
Man.
And Howard Stern likes good music. He grew up in the 60s and 70s. He likes Led Zeppelin, Stones, all that stuff. There's no way he likes Bon Jovi's music, and he's sitting there like a big phony. And screw you, Howard Stern. Screw you, Bon Jovi. Screw you, John Wenner. See, that's another thing. Howard did have a funny induction. He was like, how is Jan Wenner in charge of this? John Wenner, whatever his name is. How did he get in charge of this? Because it's not the Rolling Stone Hall of Fame. It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right. Well, I remember that Howard Stern did an interview with Bon Jovi on his show, I think back in the day. And, Bon Jovi just, did it like his shit don't stink, like he's the man. And I guess, they stayed in contact and he decided to do his induction. So I don't know. I don't know. I know deep down he's not a fan of his music.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what this
we need
is
to
about.
hook him up to a lie detector test like he does to all his staff.
Yeah.
So
that was so fake.
So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
It's just
What
things
can you
like
do?
this aggravate me to no end. As you know, we spend countless hours discussing all the things that drive us crazy, and all the phony people in the world.
Yeah.
Who drive us crazy. But what can you do? It's part of life. So anyway, here's a big shout out to FU Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Bon Jovi. See, like I said, from recording the show in New Jersey, that could be, detrimental to my health that he's the number one man in New Jersey. No, the number two man, I should say.
Right.
Of course, Bruce is first.
Of course.
So, but I don't know.
Who actually both of them don't get along, I heard.
Is that true?
That's
I'd
true.
love to hear that.
Oh, that's true.
And you know who else I hate more than Bon Jovi?
Bonner?
Phil Murphy, the new governor. I'm in New Jersey, and I guess I shouldn't be saying this either. The new governor who's already raised our taxes by $10 billion. And did you hear what happened?
No.
That, according to Madhouse magazine, which was on the scene, that the other night at the Bon Jovi concert in New Jersey, Phil Murphy, high on bath salts, bit a security guard. And there's a picture, there's evidence everywhere you look. So go on madhousemagazine.com and you will see the evidence.
That's crazy. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Never stops.
All right. So I think I got all my anger out. I'm very angry today. I have a headache. It's been raining for 3 days straight. So I think we better take a break now and get to some music before we get to Alice Cooper. Actually, we're going to get to some Alice Cooper music. So how about this? The title track off of this album, Welcome to My Nightmare. And, of course, my favorite Alice Cooper song, possibly of all time, is
Sharona.
Only Women Bleed. So we'll play some songs and we'll be right back.
Yep.
So Alice Cooper, of course, he is known as the godfather of shock rock. He was there before, name some guys, Marilyn Manson, before Kiss, before Rob Zombie, before David Bowie even. That Alice Cooper, let's get to his real name. I like to ask you these quizzes, Mike. Do you know his real name?
Oh,
Alice Cooper is not his real name.
No, it's not.
It's Vincent Fernier.
Wow.
And he was born February 4th, 1948 in Detroit, Michigan. But he moved to Arizona, and he went to school there, and he was like, he described himself. You would think his father was a minister. You believe this? Really was a minister. And you would think Alice Cooper was a dropout and a troublemaker and all this stuff, but he was not. He was like the Ferris Bueller of his high school, he said. He was the captain of the track team, and, he had a lot of fun in high school. And, of course, he loved rock and roll, the Beatles, all that. So he formed bands. His first band name was the Earwigs. Then they became the Spiders, and then they became the Nazz. Now, does that name sound familiar? Because Todd Rundgren had a band called the Nazz as well during this time. So that they moved.
Really?
Yeah. So this was like 1967, and they moved to LA, right? And they changed the name. They said, all right, Todd Rundgren has a band called the Nazz. We can't call it that anymore. So they were quickly signed by, you know who? You're very bad on this trivia, Mike,
Elektra.
I got to say.
Elektra Records.
No, Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa? Oh.
His, what was it, Specialty Records or Straight Records, it's called. So you probably couldn't. Macchioli definitely couldn't be on that label.
No.
Get it? Straight Records.
Straight.
So anyway, yeah. So
On
Frank
fire
Zappa.
tonight.
Frank Zappa loves craziness, right? So he saw these guys acting weird and stuff, and so he signed them. And then Alice got his look. Did you ever see that movie, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, starring
No.
Betty Davis? You got to go watch this movie. It's cool, really cool movie. So he got his look kind of like that, and from Barbarella movie, you know. So the classic lineup. You want to hear the classic lineup of Alice Cooper Band?
Yeah.
It was
Dennis
the lead
Dunaway.
guitarist, Glenn Buxton, rhythm guitarist, Michael Bruce, bassist, Dennis Dunaway, and drummer, Neil Smith.
Yeah.
You met Dennis Dunaway, didn't you?
I did at Rock the Farm a couple years ago.
and
It's when his book came out.
You have a story about that, or
I have a picture. Yeah, I
can you describe the picture then? It's
I
not
told
the story.
him. I told him that about the whole Robbie Krieger thing, and he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "We used to play some shows with the Doors. We used to open up for them."
Yes, I heard about that.
Yeah.
At the Whiskey, one of their first things when they were signed, that they were opening up for the Doors.
Yeah, and like I think we were talking about there's a club out there called the Cheetah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
yes.
yeah, we were talking about that.
All right,
and
that's
how,
awesome.
And how Jim Morrison walked everywhere he went. He had a license, but he lost it.
But he literally just lost it. Not like
literally-
the cops took it away, right?
No, he just couldn't find it.
So actually, I want to go back a minute. Before they got signed, Frank Zappa told them to come to his house at 7:00. So it was like, whatever, they were at the Cheetah at Saturday night, and he said, all right, come to my house tomorrow at 7:00 and we'll do an audition. So they show up at 7 a.m. the next morning and ready to play music, and Zappa's like, are you kidding me? It's 7:00 at night I wanted you here. We don't get up this early. But he was so impressed that he signed them right on the spot.
There
So,
you go.
and then, of course, the Zappas, about the GTOs. This was Zappa's other proteges, the Girls Together Outrageously. And they started dressing Alice Cooper because they were signed by Zappa as well. So they started giving him all the girls' clothes and the boas and all that stuff and the makeup. So that kind of inspired their look as well. So then their first album came out. It was called Pretties for You. And it went absolutely nowhere. Didn't sell any copies at all, not even one copy. The parents didn't even buy a copy. That's how. But it's not that bad of an album. But it just went nowhere commercially. Until, did you hear about this event, the Toronto concert, 1969, the Great Chicken Incident? It's called.
Yeah. I was watching the documentary with his manager.
Super Duper Alice Cooper. Is that?
No, what's his manager's name?
Shep Gordon.
Shep Gordon. Yeah,
Right.
that documentary. And
I think it's called Super Duper Cooper, right?
Yeah. No, it's not.
Oh, because there
It's-
is a documentary with that name that tells you everything you wanted to know, starring Shep Cooper in them. But I'm sure there's more than one.
Yeah.
So anyway, this concert, I'm not even really clear on the details here, but they were throwing like feathers out of a pillow into a fan into the crowd, right? And then somehow someone threw a chicken up on the stage. And Alice Cooper felt that it could fly, so he threw it up, and it landed in the front few rows there, and that's where people with wheelchairs were sitting, and they ripped it to pieces, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, like, what kind of people are that in the front row that are going to rip a chicken to pieces,
Maybe they thought it was fake. I think
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Wow.
Alice got the blame, and the press was all over that Alice cut his head off and drank the blood on stage, and it got crazy, right? And Zappa called him up the next day and said, "Did you do this?" And he's like, "No." And Zappa said, "Well, don't admit that. This is the best thing ever happened to us. So keep the story going, right?" So needless to say, they got a lot of press out of that. But then the next album came out, Easy Action, their second album. Sold even fewer copies than the first one. So they said, all right, that's enough. We've had enough of LA. They just don't get us here. We got to move back to Detroit. So that's what they did. Because as a quote from Alice said, we were into fun, sex, death, and money when everybody was into peace and love. We wanted to see what was next. It turned out we were next, and we drove a stake through the heart of the love generation. I love that quote.
That's really good.
It really pretty much sums it up, because it was a turning of the tide there from the hippies, peace and love, to Alice Cooper chopping the head off of a chicken and a baby and everything. Jeez. So anyway, the next album, the third album, they hooked up with producer Bob Ezrin, and he was really instrumental in this. And their next album, the third album, was Love It to Death, which was their breakthrough album. And, of course, that had the song I'm 18 on it, which went to number 21. And the album actually went to number 35. So that was their breakthrough album. And then the stage show. They were known for their stage show. They had the guillotine. They had Alice being hung. They had electric chair. They had all this stuff. Butchered babies on the stage. So,
wow.
Yeah, he was way ahead of his time, and it was just, amazing stuff. And that was one of the reasons I loved Alice Cooper so much, is because parents were so terrified of him and hated him so much that this was the coolest guy in the world.
Well, that's why they did all that. I think Shep Gordon's idea that, to shock the parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Shock the parents, and parents will tell their kids not to listen to it, and the kids are just going to listen to it. So.
And then there was like Christian groups trying to boycott them and shut them down, and the kids just loved it even more. Of course, and the snake. How could we forget the snake? His boa constrictor.
All right.
I don't know the name of the snake. I just forgot the name of the snake. Look that up on the break. We'll get back to you on that.
All right, we'll get to it.
So, So anyway, then, of course, they were the biggest band in all of the land at this point. Album after album. Let's name the albums. Killer, School's Out, $1 Billion Babies, and Muscle of Love. So... the same thing with bands everywhere and every time. It's the same damn thing, that they can't keep it together. They were the biggest band in the world, but during Muscle Love, it all fell apart. And I'm blaming the band for this, because they just couldn't accept it that Alice was the lead, because he actually changed his name to Alice Cooper now. Everyone is like, oh, are you Alice? Is the band Alice? So he's the, Alice Cooper. He changed his name to Alice Cooper legally. He said that. He went home to dinner one time, back to his house and his parents. He said, oh, so what's new? Oh, well, I'm changing my name to Alice Cooper. Pass the meatloaf. So, so the band got very upset about him having all the spotlight. Time after time this thing happens. I heard it with Blondie, that the band got upset because Blondie's getting all the fame, Debbie Harry. So in this case, Alice Cooper's getting all the notoriety.
And that's when it started to get a little hairy.
Exactly. And they, well, what about us? We play the bass, and well, there's 10 million people to play the bass, and you have this. You hit like lightning struck you. It's the greatest thing. You won the lottery. Every band in the world, when you want to first start picking up the instrument, you want to be this successful. They got this successful, and they threw it away. So they all said, we want to do solo work, we want to do this, we want to do that. So they all went their separate ways, and they tried to do a couple solo albums, and they went nowhere. So we're going to get to this album, because this was Alice Cooper's first solo album. That was the Alice Cooper band. Now we're going to get to Alice Cooper solo album, Welcome to My Nightmare. So we might as well actually take a break now, play some songs, and then come back. Let's see. What do you want to play now? Oh, this is another of my favorite Alice Cooper songs, and Cha-Cha's favorite, definitely, is You and Me. Are you familiar with that song?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to play All the Young Girls Love Alice by Elton John. And you know who that's about?
Alice Cooper.
Exactly. So, all right, we're going to play some songs, and we'll be right back. So now let's talk about this album. Alice Cooper's first solo album is called Welcome to My Nightmare, and it was released... What date was this released? March 11th, 1975. Oh. And it was produced by Bob Ezrin. And, it's funny. Last week we did a Lou Reed show. And now, did you know that Bob Ezrin came with the Lou Reed band? The people who played on Lou Reed's album, they played on this album. Steve Hunter, Dick Wagner. And there was a special introduction by Vincent Price, which was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the album went to number 5, Only Women Bleed. The single went to number 12. Here's the tracks: Welcome to My Nightmare, Devil's Food, The Black Widow, Some Folks, Only Women Bleed, Department of Youth, Cold Ethel, Years Ago, Stephen, The Awakening, and Escape. Now, this is a concept album that is heard in sequence. The songs form a journey through the nightmares of a child named Stephen, who could not wake up from the nightmare. So at this time, too, there was also a TV special. It was called The Nightmare, starring Alice Cooper. And then there was a worldwide concert tour. And then there was Welcome to My Nightmare concert film. And then a sequel, Welcome to My Nightmare 2, was released in 2011.
2011.
Yeah, so I remember this distinctly. It was way before your time. But Alice Cooper, The Nightmare, aired on ABC TV in prime time, featuring Alice in the main role as Stephen with Vincent Price. And the show won an Emmy. And I had to beg my parents, because, at this time, you don't know this struggle, Mike, but back then there was one TV in the house, and they were probably watching Kojak or some crap like that, and I had to beg and say I would paint the house, I would feed the chickens, whatever I had to do, just so I could watch Alice Cooper.
You lived on a farm in Queens?
Yes.
Wow. That's great.
So anyway, they let me watch it, and they bickered and they criticized the entire show. That made me even love it even more. They were like, "Oh my God, look at this guy!" So anyway, it was this show, the album, everything represent a last hurrah for the 70s for Elvis. Him and Bob Ezra and Shep Gordon, who you mentioned before, they put all their own money into this. And they said, if this doesn't make it, we're going to be penniless. We're going to be on the street. But if it makes it, we're going to roll the dice and see what happens.
Now, what year did that come out? What year was that aired?
1975.
All right, 75.
Yes.
Same year as the album. Very, very good.
The album and TV show came out at the same time. And then the tour, they had a big, elaborate tour.
Yeah, I guess you kind of say that was probably the first music video in a way, right?
Could be, yeah. And actually, I heard that one of his other earlier ones, he actually did one of the first music videos, too. Oh. So he was, very instrumental in the stage show. And that's what drove the guys in the bands crazy at the end, because it was all theatrics. And they just said, all right, let's just play music. We want to wear jeans, and we want to play music. And Alice said, well, all right, you can do that in your basement, but if you want to be playing Madison Square Garden, you got to do it my way.
A stage show.
Yep. They said, all right, well, choose the basement. So anyway, like I said, it was the last hurrah. This was his last U.S. platinum album before, in the 80s, he had his renaissance again, and the start of his spiraling battle against alcohol, which would totally derail him in 1977. That at this point, he was having 2 cases of Budweiser and a bottle of whiskey daily, he said, that he would wake up and that he would have a few swigs of beer. He would always make sure there was a beer on his nightstand. So when he woke up, he'd get a few swigs of beer. He'd get up, he'd vomit, and then he'd come back and start drinking. And he said, all right, I can start the day now. And he said that a lot of times he was throwing up blood at this point. So
it really scared him.
Yeah, people had to step in, and he actually spent time in a sanitarium.
That's right.
They had to put him away there to get him out of this.
That scared him.
But during this time, too, he was dating Raquel Welch. You know who Raquel Welch is? The most beautiful woman. The most beautiful woman in the world in 1975 or whatever.
Dude.
No question. And she still looks good to this day. She's 93 years old.
And she looks like she's 17.
She doesn't look a day over 85. She's awesome. Yeah, so, but the funny thing is, he actually broke up with Raquel Welch, and he met his wife on this tour. She was a ballerina and the choreographer who had to teach him how to dance, because there was dance numbers with spiders and skeletons and all this stuff.
Well, you got to dance with those.
Yeah, exactly. So he fell in love with her, Cheryl Goddard, and they got married, and they've been together ever since then. About 57 years now. And, she knew they had a little drinking problem, but, she said that he doesn't beat me, he doesn't get mean, he doesn't fall down, doesn't miss shows. And, so I didn't really think it was a big problem, but it got worse and worse. Yeah. So they almost got divorced, but he went to the sanitarium and he got out. He had a few stumbles, but then he found, what his real passion was?
Golf.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what's kept him sober, that and his family. So he's been sober for many years now, and he actually he helps out other people. Like one guy that I read, he helped out Dave Mustaine from Megadeth when they were on tour with them, opening act. That he helped them out, and he said many people come to him for help now. So he's giving it back, paying it back.
The godfather of drug rehab, rock and roll stars,
Yeah, so that's it. There was a few interesting facts. Did you know there was a rumor going on that he was Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver? There was this character from the show in the 50s, and somehow it got started that was him, but it was not him.
Just like Marilyn Manson was the little kid in Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory.
No, I think he was the kid. They said, how was that show? The Wonder Years. That he was played Paul or Peter, somebody in the Wonder Years, but that wasn't him.
Right.
And that other facts. Bob Dylan once said, Alice Cooper is the most overlooked songwriter of all time. So that's a big thing when Bob Dylan is saying you're a great songwriter.
Alice Cooper wrote his own songs, like a lot of
with
them.
the band, as well too.
Right.
So, and Johnny Rotten once said, "Killer is the best album ever." So, and then like we were talking about his resurgence in the '80s after he came out of the sanitarium, and that he put out that album Poison, and he's been going on. He's got a great new band now, I got to say, with this girl guitarist Nita Strauss. Have you seen her?
Yeah.
Yeah, this beautiful blonde girl who plays the guitar amazingly.
She used to play guitar for Michael Jackson, is that correct?
Right, and that Alice Cooper said that Prince used to always try and steal Nita Strauss from his band for his own band.
Yeah,
but
crazy.
They weren't going for it.
Nah. Well, let's back up a couple years. 1977. We wanted to tell you the name of his boa constrictor.
Oh yes, let's talk about them.
Julius Squeezer.
Yes,
and, it died in 1977. And,
a horrible accident.
A horrible accident. It was fed a rat for breakfast, and the rat bit the snake, and the snake died.
Who ever heard of that? How is that possible? It's like you ordering a pizza and it biting you and killing you.
Yeah.
So
not good.
That was in 1977. So he must have had many snakes over the years. I just read about one too. It was called Christopher, who he lost in a hotel. So if you go
or in an airplane.
Yeah, so if you see a boa constrictor, that belongs to Alice Cooper. All right, so now it's time to smell the albums. For those of you playing at home, go get your Alice Cooper album, Welcome to My Nightmare, 1975. This was actually, if you can see this too, this was voted one of the best album covers of all time. See, that's something that you won't get anymore because you have MP3s, but this is artwork.
Yeah, you
that is an awesome. I don't even know who created that piece of art there, but it's beautiful.
Looks like bathroom wallpaper, and then Alice Cooper's picture on top of it,
popping through. Yes, all right, Mike. Here you go. Have a smell of that. And inside here, the record sleeve, even you can see there's some more artwork, and there's the lyrics, some more pictures. Even that smells good. Let's smell the sleeve. That smells good.
You always have the best smelling albums, man.
Yes, he was known. It smells like a dead rat, actually.
Yeah, that bit Julius Squeezer.
Yeah, so that's it. That's the story of Alice Cooper. And I love Alice Cooper so much that I want to do more Alice Cooper albums. I want to go back and do the band, and start out each one of those albums until Muscle of Love, of course.
Well, the original band actually played on stage, I believe, a few months ago.
Yeah, that they did. They got back together. Are they recording an album, I believe, too, as well?
They were writing some songs together. I don't know if they're doing an album.
So that was the classic lineup. That even though I love Alice Cooper now, and I've seen him a few times with the new band, the classic band is the one that, you can't beat that.
So they're all getting along now.
Yes. That a lot of water under the bridge, a lot of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and Alice Cooper is very happy now. And because, it's really a persona. Alice Cooper, he said, when he gets on stage, there's Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper's insane, crazy. But when the show's over, Vince comes back out and Alice Cooper goes away. That you'll never see him doing interviews as Alice Cooper or anything like that.
I can see that. Yeah, that's
it's like
when you're a front man or a singer, and especially a stage, you have a costume and everything like that. Man, you're getting character. As soon as the show's over, you're completely different.
Right. See, that's when there's problems though. When people take it off stage too,
exactly.
When they believe they become the character.
Yeah,
and that leads to big problems.
Big problems. Yeah.
So there you have it. All the news about Alice Cooper you ever wanted to know.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have anything else? Do we want to make fun of Macchioli again?
Macchioli.
Yes. Macchioli's a big Bon Jovi fan, by the way. Did you know that? That he actually went to Cleveland this week to see Bon Jovi.
The induction?
Yes.
Right.
And he was caught throwing his bloomers on stage.
Yes. And then that's when he took the train to New York.
Yes, that's where he was coming from.
And then
he was lost for 2 days in Cleveland. He didn't know how to get home.
And
Do you know why they put the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, by the way?
Cleveland.
That was the DJ was there, Alan Freed, who coined the term rock and roll. So, that's it. That's all we have for Alice Cooper. It was nice. See how nice and professional and calm we could be.
Very calm.
Without Macchioli going berserk on us.
You got to control him always.
Exactly. So there you go. So, all right. So now we're going to wrap this up. We're going to play some more songs. We're going to play one of my other favorite. So I'm going to say that about every Alice Cooper song because I love basically every Alice Cooper song. So we're going to play Teenage Lament 74, and we're going to play Department of Youth, and then we're going to play the Artist of the Month. So thank you for joining us here on the Madhouse Magazine Radio Hour, 474 The Mix. Go check us out, madhousemagazine.com, the funniest rock and roll magazine in the entire world. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Absolutely.
I think we can do a story about Mike Macchioli soon. So, all right. So we'll see you next time. God knows what we'll be doing.